All right, what up guys, it's Johnny here from Ignite, and I'm here today with Max, who graduated from the HSC last year, achieved an ATAR of 99.85, and in the English Advanced course received a mark of 96. So an incredibly talented student we have here, and he did remarkably well last year, so very much appreciate you being here today, Max.
So I started off by going to SparkNotes, Cliff Notes, all those Schmoop, all those websites that a lot of people will say are quite trashy, and oftentimes they are. But why I started there was that they gave me a really basic but comprehensive conceptual and thematic understanding of my text, and they also got it also made sure that I understood the plot line, which is important at the very first level. After that, I used...
And how far in advance are you doing this? This is like during the term. This is before the assessment's even been handed out.
So I would often, for some texts, I even in the holidays before, had a quick read on SparkNotes. For example, I watched the Hamlet movie before we did it in class, and I had a sense of what it was about. And what's powerful about that is then when you get to class, everything the teacher tells you makes more sense because they're telling you it within... they're telling you and you already have a sense of the greater whole, and it also allows you to ask better questions in class and start to hone your understanding. So the first step for me was SparkNotes, those notes online. Second step was teacher. Third step was a platform like Ignite, Johnny's platform, which I did use. I downloaded his resource books for all the essays I did. So after I had looked at online, got my teacher's notes, got the notes from Johnny, the next step for me was twofold. One approach was to search for any article, any scholarly article I could find online, and distill the main ideas from that critical interpretation, because they often gave me the ideas to, I guess, elevate my essay that one step further above any essay I'd seen before. And then the other step was looking at past essays. So if you can get your hands on past exemplars, they are quite instructive. I know a lot of people get their hands on past exemplars, and because they don't actually really understand the text, they read the exemplar and don't actually recognize the merit of the essay. They don't recognize how good the essay was. At the start of the year, I wrote an essay. I thought it was really good. I thought it was better than any essay I had ever written. At the end of the year, I read that essay again. I realized it was pretty trash, and I realized that all these essays I was reading that had actually gotten a band 6, had gotten 18, 19, or 20 out of 20, deserved it. And it wasn't until my level or my understanding of English as a subject was better that I came to appreciate the merit in those high marked essays. So sometimes if an essay gets a 20 out of 20 and you can't see why, it's not necessarily a problem with the essay. Sometimes it can just be that you aren't familiar enough with the subject yet. So after school, I probably studied 3 to 4 hours most days. I just didn't have time to do more because I really prioritized sleep and exercise. Before the HSC, trying to bring my mind back, I was probably studying 10-hour days or so, maybe even a little bit more.
Okay.
So before the HSC, I really was cramming in those long days.
So this is 10 hours a day for at least a couple of weeks before the...
Once school finished, for probably 2-3 weeks, I would have been doing those long days. So I know Johnny shares this view that I'm about to share, but I really strongly believe that anyone who is disciplined enough can get a band 6 in English, provided that they have been taught the right way and have the right content. And if your goal is to get a band 6 in English, just get a band 6, which is a considerable achievement and scales your ATAR really well, then memorising the essay is 100% the way to go. What you'll find when you get to the very, very high end, those going for like a 98, 99, 100 out of 100 in English, which is, all of those marks would get you a state rank, then people start to adapt their essays a little bit more. But if your goal is a band 6, I really believe if you have the right content, have been taught it properly, and then have the discipline to memorize an essay that you have edited and put a lot of time into, then anyone can achieve a band 6. It is feasible. you don't memorize to regurgitate it word for word. You memorize because it allows you to adapt more easily. And that's what I found for myself. Maybe it's not for everyone, but I found that I could adapt more easily and be more confident in the exam, knowing that I had some kind of framework to fall back upon. It actually allowed me to think about the question even more so. And what I did, more leading up to the HSC because I had more time, I got a list of 20 questions, short, and arranged them in order of what I thought was the easiest all the way to the hardest to adapt to. And then I kind of thought my way through how I would attack each of those questions. And for a topic such as Hamlet, which for us was the essay which could really have the most variance in question, I also prepared extra snippets of information that I could bring into my essay as a substitute for information that was already in it, in the case that the question required it. So, yes, 90% of the time I knew what was going where. In Hamlet, I did plan for some contingencies, particularly questions to do with gender, where I would change things around a little bit more because they didn't really suit my essay. In our Module A for the HSC, I actually changed my essay quite significantly, and I bought my marks back. One of those kids
you can
to
get
do
them
that.
back from Nessa.
Yeah,
now.
I copped the $20. Probably wasn't worth it.
Well, maybe for this information.
Yeah. What I saw was Mod A, the one that I actually changed the most, and I was actually pretty comfortable with my changes. I was quite happy with them. Was the lowest marked essay I got. So maybe it's a coincidence, but maybe you shouldn't be changing too much from your memorized essays. For the HSC, I was a little bit more prepared. It would have been a week or 2 weeks. For my other English exams, I probably memorized my essay 2-3 days before, and then I spent one evening or 1 or 2 hours one evening just practicing adapting. Because at the end of the day, you're pushed for time during the term,
yes,
and you do need to prioritise things. For the HSC, I did have a bit more time. When I was memorising my essays, I actually read most of them aloud, more because I memorise things better by writing, but I could read my essay 5 times in the time it would take me to write it once. So I didn't time my memorised essays, and before going into exams, maybe I did 1 or 2 timings of an essay, more because I didn't have time. For the HSC, I timed a few more, but even then, not a whole lot. I started to, however, have a sense of how many words I had to write to fit within a certain time. I was constantly forcing myself to write it out in a shorter time, not necessarily by writing quicker, but by taking content out. I did try to say I was practicing for a 40-minute essay. I reckon a 5-minute buffer would be reasonable. But then what I also had were paragraphs that I used to, or sentences that I used to know that on the day I could sack. It would deteriorate the quality of my essay a tiny bit, but it would allow me to finish my essay in time. So I did actually plan what sentences I could take out beforehand, because I guess I wouldn't have to think about it as much in the day. And that was also a pretty good stress management tool as well, because since I knew that I had paragraphs I could take out on the day, if I was a bit behind time, I didn't stress that much. I was thinking, oh, it doesn't matter, I can take this paragraph out. I started drafting my essays whenever I had, I guess, free time. That could have been in the holidays, it could have been after I got my feedback from the essay. But sometimes you do end up leaving it till a little later, and you are crammed for time. And I think if you are really pushed for time and you're just going for you're searching for the best bang for your buck in terms of constructing an essay, the 2 things to go to would be past essays and Ignite resources. And I recommended that to my whole year, yeah. Yeah,
well,
so Johnny's not paying me to say that.
No, let's make that clear.
He didn't even know I was going to say that. I recommended that to my whole year though, because if you don't have much time, they're just the quickest ways, past essays and Ignite's resources, they're the quickest ways you're going to be able to get all the information all in one place that is really specific and targeted to what you were trying to do. You can read 100 scholarly articles, but they don't mean anything if they aren't relevant to the HSC and the essay you have to write, whereas Ignite's resources and past HSC essays are very relevant. Sometimes teachers can get pretty bogged down with all the drafts that people are sending them. So I did reach out to a few past high achievers from my school and one or two who weren't at my school. All up, I probably reached out to 5 different people, and some of those people I sent 1 essay to, some of those people I sent 2 essays to. It kind of depended. Some people I sent an essay, and this was for feedback, draft editing. Some people just didn't give that good feedback, so I used them once and then found someone who gave me good feedback.
So, and then these people are you paying for this feedback?
Yeah. So I'm paying anywhere between, typically, these were ex-students, not teachers. Typically, an ex-student charges between $20 and $40 to mark an essay.
Okay.
So something in that range for marking.
So for any student out there, you've got to try and locate someone who you know who did well, and not request feedback. But at the bare minimum,
but you guys offer that service as well, do you?
Well, I won't put it out there. We're not doing the marking of all the essays, but perhaps in the future, keep an eye out.
Yep.
But I'm thinking more so for the base level student though, teacher is the first protocol. Yep. If they're bogged down, because we understandably, it's out of school hours, so you can't expect a teacher to deconstruct every single sentence for you. If you want that polish, you do need to sometimes look to outside sources. Yep. But what if someone can't afford someone on the outside, a tutor on the outside? How should they do it? What's an arrangement they could come up with?
To be honest, if you genuinely couldn't afford it and you approached someone who you know did well at your school, even in the year above, or someone in your year, and were honest and vulnerable with them, I would bet $100 that they would give you some feedback. I reckon if you asked nicely and told them how much you would appreciate it, I genuinely reckon that most people out there have good hearts and they will give you feedback. Otherwise, you can also get feedback from boys in your year.
Did you engage in that much? Did you ever give feedback to anyone else?
I gave feedback to a whole heap of boys in my year, obviously free. And so, 100%. What you could do, approach someone who's doing well in your year, and most of the time you'll find that they're pretty open to feedback. I know before the HSC, I sent my essays to everyone. I sent my notes out to everyone. I made a couple practice papers as well with questions that I thought were particularly challenging. So it's not that if you ask, most of the time if you ask someone, they're going to help you. My problem was I thought I was a fast writer, and then I got good feedback in trials that my handwriting was just ridiculously messy, and in the HSC they don't read it. So what that forced me to do was slow down, fix up my handwriting and have shorter essays. I think I had shorter essays than anyone else who got the same marks I did, but I guess that really it forced me to focus on the quantity and the economy of words. I didn't time my water drinking that well, so I had to take a leak in the middle of the exam.
Not good.
Which was to the detriment of me, but to everyone else as well, because I was doing a runner out of the hall.
Right, so go to the toilet before your exam.
So go to the toilet before your exam. What I always say to people is the best way to prevent stress during the term is to do holiday homework. Say in the summer holidays, you have 8 weeks off, roughly that. If you did 2-3 hours a day, it's not much, 2 1.5 hour blocks, the amount of time that would free up during term, it's astronomical. So I did that. I probably studied summer holidays, I was a bit lazy, but all the other holidays I studied probably on average 3-4 hours a day. And what that allowed me to do was go out every Saturday night, play first sport, go out a lot of Friday nights as well. But it's not because I wasn't working, it's just because I was working in the holidays when those 3-4 hours a day really didn't matter much, because I could still do everything else I wanted to do in my holidays during the day. So number one thing, do a little bit of holiday work. Not saying heaps, 1 hour a day even adds up. Number 2 would be the little things of exercise, sleep and water all make a difference. The difference between the people who get the really high marks and those marks, sure, maybe they work a bit harder, or you could say they're more gifted, but all of them prioritize sleep. They're all getting 8+ hours shut-eye every night. They're all drinking water. They're all doing some form of exercise. I exercised I'm pretty sure 6 days a week. Leading up to trials, I was in the gym 3 days and football 3 days. So exercise 100% is massive. At the start of the HSC, I thought my exams were a little bit off, and I hadn't exercised, and it could be again correlation, but I think not having exercise actually threw me out a bit for my first couple exams, because then when I did exercise for a later exam, I actually felt a lot better, and I got a better mark in the exam I exercised before than I expected, whereas the exams I didn't exercise before, I got a worse mark than I expected. So exercise, sleep, and water matter. They're really small fixes that anyone can make, and then a little bit of holiday work does pay its dues.